We recently started helping this awesome couple, Sam and Sarah. He's turning 60 soon, she's about the same age. They're getting really serious about planning for their retirement. See, he sold his business, which was obviously his baby. He built this thing up, he ran it for 30 years. He sold it for a few $1 million. And you know what the crazy thing is? He's not actually sure if he's in a good enough spot financially to now actually pull the plug and retire. And the even wilder thing is, at a glance, neither did I, and I'm a certified financial planner. So in this video, I'm going to walk through the process that we walked through with Sam and with Sarah, specifically the 4 key questions that we asked early on in our work together that actually helped Sam specifically think completely differently about his future, especially just around some things that he never thought he'd be able to do. You see, Sam had some unspeakable retirement ideas, right? These are ideas that had been kind of sequestered in the back of his mind over the years, suppressed purely because he thought they were financially impossible, right? Mathematically speaking, just like financially irresponsible. And these questions that we walked through in our discussion together actually helped him figure out what mattered the most, and it gave him permission to think differently about what his retirement was going to look like. And by the way, these questions, they're not just for Sam, they're for you too, as you plan for your own retirement. So let's dive in. So Sam and Sarah were looking for help. They needed solid answers to this question of, are we ready for retirement? And whenever we get started doing planning work for a client, we're going to start with just gathering all of their documents, right? So statements, insurance policies, org charts, personal tax returns, corporate tax returns, wills, powers of attorneys, everything that is in their filing cabinet, right? Our goal here is just to get up to speed as quickly as possible to everything someone's got going on in their financial life. And so that's exactly what we did. And here's what we found. They own their home, debt-free, worth about $2.1 million up in the interior. Nice place. They had some RSPs worth about $400,000, a TFSA, and then about $4.5 million inside their corporation, which turned out to be the sale proceeds from that business sale that I just mentioned. Now, a quick pause here. You might be thinking, justifiably, how on earth could someone with about $7 million ever be wondering if they can actually retire? Like, Steve, seriously, just give your head a shake. And you know what? I'd actually agree with you. It's a good amount of money that these folks worked really, really hard for over the course of 30 years, building and running this profitable business. But for these folks who we see regularly, these are completely fair and real questions with very significant consequences if you screw it up, right? Like, they're square in the middle of that retirement risk zone here. And without knowing any information about their spending, we actually have no way of knowing if it is in fact enough for them, right? Mathematically speaking. And even if they do have enough from a dollars and a cents point of view, actually believing these numbers and actually feeling that confidence is a completely different issue and arguably just as important. So here we've got Sam and Sarah, smart, successful couple, ran a business for 30 plus years, good with numbers, right? By all accounts. And I'm still wondering, how on earth haven't you already answered this "do I have enough" question already, right? It's strange because they have an excellent team of well-paid accountants, right? Not cutting any corners there. They've got legal people, they've got investment pros all around them. But there's this nagging gap in their mind. Everyone around them seemed to be looking in the rear view mirror, right? They were focusing on stuff that already happened, tax compliance, past performance. All that stuff was looking backward. No one was actually looking forward to help them think about and plan for the future. They were trying to drive the car by looking in the rear view mirror, something that we can all imagine leads to accidents. So this left Sam and Sarah in a pretty difficult spot, right? Despite their financial success that it would seem that they've achieved, they actually didn't have a plan. They had a business exit plan, but that was where their vision for the future ended. And now they're sitting on the other side of that sale, Sam now working for the business that he previously owned and then sold, and they're wondering what future lies ahead for them, right? Sam's left to kind of quarterback all of this on his own from the side of his desk while he's still working for the person who bought his business. And they're just trying to adapt to the pressure of this new season of life. So they clearly needed a plan that would look, feel, smell, taste, right? Entirely different from anything that they'd ever seen before. And it needed to somehow harmonize the math side of this problem and the softer qualitative side of the problem. This is where we find many advisors struggle to deliver the kind of true value that their clients are looking for, right? It seems most advisors will start with the assets, right? The liabilities, the income, the expenses, and then they'll just dive straight into building out a plan based on those numbers, right? They'll build it, they'll present it to the client, right? Nice PowerPoint presentation, as if this is purely a math problem that requires solving. We hear this all the time, right? I'll ask when someone last did their plan. They'll say, oh, a few years ago, I think, right? And sure enough, it's in some fat binder on a top shelf, right? Collecting dust. It bears absolutely no relevance to their life today. That makes sense. Their fingerprints were never on that plan. It was designed for them by someone else. It was never co-created. It was never co-envisioned. It may as well be a report card for another person. By the way, if we haven't ever met, my name's Steve Willems. I'm a practicing certified financial planner and wealth advisor with the Willems Wealth Planning Group out here in BC. We started this channel to help you plan for your own retirement, helping you think about how to plan and arrange your investments, your income streams, and ideally pay less tax along the way. Now, enough fluffy talk. Let's show you how we helped Sam and Sarah sort this out. So one of the key components of our process is what we call our vision and values prioritization meeting. The cornerstone of this meeting is the discussion where we unpack 4 key questions. Now, first we ask, what do you love spending money on? And their answers here were telling. The husband, Sam, he loved his squash club. They loved skiing up at Big White as well, also loved healthy eating. So nothing too extravagant here, but experiences that brought them joy and fulfillment. What we didn't hear here was equally valuable. We didn't hear about home renovations. We didn't hear about house cleaners, really expensive vehicles. We didn't hear about outsourcing unpleasant tasks or luxury goods here. There's nothing wrong with those things. That just wasn't important to them. And next, we pushed a little bit further by asking, if you had to spend 4 times as much on any one of those things, what would it be? What would it look like? Now, Sam is interesting here. He had an immediate answer. His comment, he wanted to live abroad for 6-week stints, maybe the Mediterranean one time, the Caribbean another time. His answer was really, really revealing. After some back and forth and some really good discussion, he shared that he felt like his life had been so caught up in the business, right, for the last few decades that his kids now are coming through their kind of young adult years. And he just feels like there was maybe a missed opportunity to spend really quality time with them. He wanted to use this next season of his life, hopefully, to create a few core memories with his kids as they'd pass certain kind of age milestones, spending kind of dedicated one-on-one time with them, traveling overseas, some type of adventure-based, culturally immersive travel experience. For him, this had always seemed like a dream that was just out of reach, right? Financially and time-wise, maybe until now. It's as though he had never been given permission to even consider such a wild thought. So here we were, kind of giving him permission at least to think about it, right? Like, what would it look like? What would it feel like? Who would benefit from actually green lighting that idea? How much might it even cost? Now, third, we also asked, what would a really bad retirement look like? For Sam and Sarah, their biggest fears were running out of money and not having enough money to do the things that they ultimately wanted to do. This is kind of interesting, right? Because despite their financial success, these fears had never actually been thoroughly tested or planned for. Sam, the husband, he had a strong accounting background and this team of professionals supporting him, but there was still this kind of nagging uncertainty. Again, it's not uncommon where despite someone's net worth, there's still this anxiety, maybe even some paranoia about the absolute loss of their wealth, that it just can't be shaken. And because we know this, it's going to help us understand what kind of assumptions we should make about the future, right? Safeguards to put in place, ways to integrate their income plan with their investment plan to make sure that those fears never actually play out. Now, finally, we asked, what would you do with your time if you weren't working or traveling? He reflected and he shared that he'd probably want to take on some board work or maybe even some type of consulting engagement. He kind of felt like his experience professionally, his connections that he's got in his network could be a lot of value for folks who are building other businesses. And it might be helpful to earn a little bit of extra income in this next season of life if he was able to kind of selectively take on some of those engagements. He thought it was actually going to kind of engage him intellectually as well and prevent boredom. He was pretty jazzed up about that. Now, by asking these critical questions, we were able to uncover what truly mattered for Sam and for Sarah, and what kind of that dream retirement might actually look like. This wasn't the kind of stuff you can kind of see that you can kind of just put in a questionnaire and plug into some online calculator. This was a deeply personal process, right? We're talking about dreams and fears and anxieties and hopes and aspirations, some things that had never even been voiced before. Now, after this vision and values prioritization meeting, the next critical step was to analyze Sam and Sarah's lifestyle spending. It's super important in this process to understand how much after-tax money you actually need to fund your ideal life in retirement. These folks were savers by default, which was going to make the transition from saving to spending in retirement probably a little bit more challenging for them. So we needed a really solid and realistic figure to base their plan on. So to get there, we looked at a rolling average of their current expenses and we adjusted for their future needs. We backed off then any expenses that would fall off naturally in retirement. We've talked a little bit about how to run the math on these types of calculations already here on this channel, so I'll put a link to that video up here just in case you missed it. Initially, their initial guess for lifestyle expenses, it turned out to be off by about 50%, which just goes to show how crucial it is to have accurate inputs, especially for this lifestyle spending figure, right? As they say, kind of garbage in, garbage out, and we wanted to ensure that we had the best possible data to kind of build their plan around. Now, with a clear understanding of their lifestyle expenses, we began to optimize their plan for the dreams they never thought were possible. So we incorporated in that desire for those longer, kind of culturally immersive trips with their kind of young adult children, that spending smile concept that we've discussed in past videos, the potential for part-time board work or consulting gigs, kind of to keep them engaged and provide that extra income. We also performed a sensitivity analysis where we tested for specific rates of return on their different assets to essentially stress test the plan and just make sure that it was robust enough under different economic scenarios. The result of all of this work was a really solid plan that confirmed that they could retire comfortably. They could do actually far more than they even imagined. Their retirement now included that extended travel, enhanced lifestyle activities, kind of a sense of security, knowing that they wouldn't run out of money. And from this work, it gave them the confidence to then go and actually book that first once-in-a-lifetime trip with their kids. Sam was also essentially granted permission to re-envision this stage of his professional life and gave him the confidence to step into that board work, that consulting work as a passion project more than anything. So this whole process that we walked through together, it answered that first question, right? Do we have enough? It still left, though, a second question, right? A feeling as though they were maybe missing out on optimization opportunities since Sam was just previously quarterbacking all of this work on his own. So we then moved on to address kind of the several remaining optimizations to further refine their plan. For them, what this meant was creating some strategies to reduce their corporate tax bill, some decisions on what to do with some old permanent life insurance policies they'd taken out maybe 20 years earlier, updates to their estate plan, including correcting some missing beneficiary designations, right? Doing a bunch of these small things correctly. But by the end, we answered that initial "do I have enough" question, and then we also took the time to make sure that everything else was optimized and that nothing was being missed. This approach, you can see it's really forward-looking, right? Like, we're not looking in the backwards mirror this whole time. We're looking ahead. We're asking the right questions. And for Sam and Sarah, this process proved really invaluable to help them get to that confident retirement they were hoping for. And I hope this was valuable for you too, as you plan for your own retirement, giving you a framework of questions to think about as you plan for your own journey. If it was helpful, just give this video a like. Make sure you're subscribed also to the channel just to make sure you're not missing out on anything we've got coming down the pipe. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next video.